academic goals and educational priorities?
I'm pulling the goals and priorities because it was discussed extensively at the last meeting, but we just wanted to make sure our tradition is to hold important things like this over for 2 meetings, just in case there have been any comments. I don't know to the degree staff has or members of the public and teachers and parents have had a chance to look at it, but it does, just to highlight it, it does really emphasize the importance of focusing on some of the items that were discussed earlier, on particularly making sure that we're providing the support for teaching. It also focuses on attendance in school and making sure, because quite frankly, the funding, and I don't think we can say this enough, the funding for us to do what we do comes from attendance. When there's lower attendance, we have less funding to pay for the things we want. So looking for strategies to maintain attendance, proficiency in mathematics and language, student leadership and voice, which we continue to feel is an important piece of what we do. And looking at alignment with the Common Core standards and using the best practices and make sure we have the best materials available for teachers and students. Prioritizing the response for intervention, the RTI framework that we've been using, and making sure that that those outcomes are focused on, and then parental involvement and doing what we can. Earlier tonight we talked about parental involvement, and that's a priority as well. And I think it's important to find ways to, not only because we can use the help, but also I think for students to be able to see their parents engage in education sends the signal of how important the work we do in the classroom is. And then communication, proactive, inclusive communication as one of our priorities. I think it's one of the areas of growth that we have, and that we want to continue to prioritize that. And then with the new funding proposal from the state, the local control academic plan, which is required by the state now, and because it is a requirement, because our funding's based on it, and because it focuses us on our teaching practice and on our community school, that is an additional priority. So that summarizes what was a 2-hour or an hour and a half conversation from last time, but I think since it's a core to our goals and priorities, it's worth saying it again for the record, and want to encourage people to look at this document, and that our actions will be guided by it over the next year. So that's all I had to say.
I just have a quick question, because I see we have some staff and at least one grandparent out there. Were you all aware of the academic priorities before tonight and what these goals and priorities were? Or is this kind of the first time hearing it tonight? Okay. Okay.
I went on the website.
Okay. Okay.
So again, this is exactly why we hold these things over for 2, to be able to get the word out. I think as part of going forward, we're going to be looking at more ways of, going beyond just having it at a meeting and posting it on the website. I think we need to find more ways to get it out, and that was discussed during our the communications portion. We discussed having a rule of 5. So we have 5 different ways to communicate everything that we do, because not everybody listens on the same channel of communication. not everybody attends a board meeting, not everybody goes on the website, but if we have different ways of communicating, you'll at least catch it on one of them. So I think that's, yeah, I'll leave it at that. There's, should I,
So just to make a comment on that, once these priorities and targets are established by you, each principal, as they give their presentations tonight, will not only talk about how they plan to prioritize these goals, but also the work that they'll be engaged in with staff to ensure that we strive to meet those goals. So you'll hear that this evening. And a big part of that will be communicating with staff and with parents about those priorities once they're approved by you.
Any other comments from board members on this particular item? Any public comment on this one? Yeah.
I was looking through the internet really quickly, but I will not say this is the first time we've heard of it. We have talked about academic goals and you know, the trajectory of where we're going. So it's not the first time that staff members have heard about it.
good.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Good, thank you.
Any additional public comment? Thank you. So we have, as board members, seen this maybe 3 times in different permutations maybe. Is there any other additional discussion on it? And shall we act this evening so we can move forward?
I'll move approval.
Second.
All right, no objection here, so I think that takes us 3. That's our vote, more or less. All right.